Okay, and it's recording.
Awesome.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm so happy you're here. So I'm Melissa Carbonell, if you haven't been on my channel before, and I have a branch of Real Broker here in Florida, in Fort Lauderdale. And today we're speaking with our Broward County property appraiser, Marty Kerr.
Hello, everybody. How y'all doing? I just want to thank you so much for having me on today. You know what? I love this job. I feel so blessed and privileged that y'all let me do it. And there's so much we can do to help the public. And I just want to thank you because the best way to help people is when I'm given the opportunity to come out and talk about the great things that our office can do and the services that we provide. And so thank you so much for letting me come and talk to you today.
Thanks for coming. I really appreciate you coming here to our office to shoot this. And I just think in real estate, we're always talking about this stuff. And every time we do a transaction, people have questions. Or when somebody's going to change, like how does this affect their taxes? What are their taxes going to be? So I think there needs to be every realtor in the state talking about property taxes all the time. And we have here in Broward a lot of exemptions and things we can do to keep our property taxes from going up. So that's one of the good things that we have here. We're not going to talk about your resume yet. Your resume is insane.
Thank you.
We're talking about that a little later. I have it here.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you for that.
Is Save Our Home. So let's start with one of the greatest things we have for people who are, this is their primary residence.
Yes.
They're staying here. They've been here for a while. So how does Save Our Homes work?
Well, and thank you so much for bringing that up. That is such a fantastic question. I love the Save Our Homes cap. That's part of our Florida Constitution. And here's why it's so very important. In many states, if you live in those states and they don't have exemptions or you have to pay property taxes on the property, the value that you're taxed on can go up every single year to the market value. So your taxes constantly go up and up. In Florida, we are very lucky to have something called the Save Our Homes assessment cap. And here's what it means. When you bought your home, you filed for Homestead. And when you did that, which is very important, two things happened. The first thing is the value that you're taxed on, $50,000 of value gets taken off the tax roll, you don't pay tax on. It can save you, maybe $1,000 a year just at the beginning alone. But the most important thing the Homestead Exemption does, it kicks in the Save Our Homes assessment clause of the Florida Constitution and basically says that every year thereafter, the value you're taxed on cannot go up more than 3% or the consumer price index, whichever is lower. And why that's so very important is the market, as you know, over the past few years has skyrocketed. And so your home today is probably worth a heck of a lot more than it was last year, the year before that, the year before that. And so your market value is really going up. But because of the Save Our Homes assessment clause, the value that you're taxed on cannot go up more than 3% each year. So even if your market value goes up 60, 70, 80, 100%, the value you're taxed on can't go up more than 3%. It keeps your property taxes manageable if you're a primary resident here in the state of Florida. So I love the Save Our Homes assessment cap.
Save Our Homes is one of our best protectors of keeping our houses more affordable once we buy our houses. I think it's important. And then a question I get or a comment I get a lot sometimes when people considering selling their home and moving. So these are our upsizers, right? So they want to move to a bigger home, but they are concerned, or a more expensive home, sometimes it's a condo and a smaller home, they're just worried about how much their property taxes are going to go up. So I try to explain that they have portability. And I heard one of your other interviews, I didn't realize portability was statewide.
It is.
I thought it was only for Broward to Broward.
It's
so
everywhere.
yeah, so basically, on the back of Save Our Homes, where you have that protection, you can take that protection with you when you buy the next house. And Marty can explain it more in detail.
Oh, you are so right. And thank you so much for letting your clients know about it. I think it is so very important. Portability is really a fantastic program. It gives people the opportunity to move from one home into another home and not be taxed out of that home. And here's the way it works. When you bought your home, again, you filed for Homestead. And again, the most important thing that kicked into place with that Save Our Homes assessment clause that I just spoke about, that says the value you're taxed on can't go up more than 3%. So over time, your market value gets high, but your assessed value stays lower because of that cap. You have all this value in between your market value and your assessed value you don't pay taxes on. And now if you decide you want to buy a home of equal value or greater value, you take whatever difference that is with you between your market value to your assessed value to your new home and don't pay taxes on it. If you buy a home of lower value, you take a percentage of it and you can still save many thousands of dollars a year in your property taxes. Under Florida law, you can move up to $500,000 of value. That's like moving a $500,000 house and not paying taxes on it. You have to use it within 3 tax years to be able to get it, and you can use it anywhere in the state of Florida. And can I give a real-world example?
Yes, really please. That'll be easier for the rest of us to understand.
Oh, no, thank you so much. So one example I like to give is a couple that was able to move the full $500,000 of value to a new home and not pay taxes on it. There was a couple that lived in Weston, and they bought their home in Weston Hills when Weston Hills was built a few decades ago. And a few decades ago, a young family could still afford a home in Weston Hills, which is a pretty high-end community. And when they did that, they filed for Homestead, and that cap we spoke about kicked into place. So fast forward about 20 years, their kids went to Cypress Bay High School, then the University of Florida, and all of a sudden they're empty nesters, and all they wanted to do was move to downtown Fort Lauderdale, to a condo, and to enjoy everything Las Olas had to offer, but they were very afraid they couldn't afford the property taxes. So we looked at their property. The market value of their property at the time was right about $900,000, but their assessed value was about $400,000 because of that Save Our Homes cap. So they had $500,000 of value they weren't paying taxes on. What they did was they sold their home in Weston Hills. They then bought a condo in downtown Fort Lauderdale for right about $900,000, and as a result of that, we were able to move the full $500,000 of value they weren't paying taxes on in Weston to their condo in Fort Lauderdale, which dropped their assessed value to about $400,000, which basically meant the taxes in Fort Lauderdale were very similar to what they were in Weston. They were able to afford to be able to make that move. Portability is the best, and something that people don't always think about is when you save money that first year. Let's say you save that full $10,000 the first year because you have that entire amount of portability to move over. You don't just save that the first year, you save that the second year, the third year, the fourth year, and that really adds up. Portability is fantastic, and you can use it anywhere in the state of Florida.
Yeah, I love that. It's such a good program. And on the Broward County Property Appraiser's website, bcpa.net, and we'll put a link down in the show notes so that you have that. There is also a portability calculator. So you can go in there and play with the numbers and say, oh, okay, if I buy a house that's, $900,000, but my values are here right now, then it'll tell you what your taxes are estimated to be.
Yes.
So, and it's so simple to use, and we can put that link down there also.
Thank you so much. I totally forgot to bring that up. That was like the most important thing I was supposed to say. It is a fantastic link, and you know what's great about it? It'll really give you an idea of what will happen with your property taxes. You can really make sure that you or your client can actually afford that property the next year when the property gets reassessed to market value, so they can really know what their property taxes are going to be. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's so easy to use. You just go right on there and do the math yourself, and you don't have to call and ask questions, and it's super simple.
Thank you.
All right, so one of the other things I want to talk about is exemption. So if you've seen my YouTube channel, I talk about the Florida condo safety law. It's obviously affecting a lot of seniors.
Yes.
It's affecting them in their 55 and up communities, and so I want to make sure that a lot of them are really taking advantage of all the potential exemptions that we have in Broward County. Because I've definitely served clients that maybe only pay $700 a year in their taxes, and then some people in the same community pay maybe $3,000, and to a senior, that's a lot.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So, what are the potential exemptions that people, doesn't have to be just seniors, do we have in Broward?
So, and thank you so much for that question. The thing I love most about my job is we get to give tax-saving exemptions to people that qualify. And there are a lot of exemptions under Florida law that people qualify for. The most important one, we spoke about it just before a little bit, is the Homestead Exemption. You have to have that exemption before you qualify for any other exemption. And here's how you qualify. If you make something your primary residence, it's where you're registered to vote. If you don't vote, where your declaration of domicile, where your car is registered to, if that's where you live, you get that very important exemption that at the beginning takes about $50,000 of value off the tax roll you don't pay tax on, can save you about $1,000 a year. Once you get that, there are so many other exemptions people are entitled to. Some are very, very large, some are a little smaller, and you can stack all the exemptions to reduce your tax bill. Examples of very, very large ones would be for totally permanently disabled veterans. So if you know somebody that's a 100% totally permanently disabled veteran, they are fully exempt from paying all property taxes. If somebody's not a 100% disabled veteran, but they're a combat disabled veteran, they get a percentage reduction in their taxes that correlates to whatever their disability percentage is. And if they're not 100% disabled, not combat disabled, but still a disabled veteran, they still get a big reduction in their taxes. There are exemptions for widows. There are exemptions for people with disabilities. My favorite exemption, though, and I'm so glad you asked me about seniors, is called the low-income senior exemption, and I'll tell you why. Broward County has 2 million people that live here. We are a very big county, and about 25% of our population population are seniors. And unfortunately, on average, the most impoverished portion of our population are also seniors. And I always think if you can help a senior who's struggling to make ends meet, put a little bit more money in their pocket, they can have a little better of a life. So to qualify for a senior exemption, you have to be over 65 years of age after January 1st. You had to made under right about $36,000 last year. If you qualify like that, you get another homestead exemption on top of the one you currently get. It could save you another $400 or $500 a year. Now, there are some cities that have adopted what's called the long-term senior exemption, and the county commission has adopted this as well. Not a lot of seniors qualify for it, but the ones that do can save a lot of money in their taxes. So if you know anybody that's over 65 years of age, they made under last year right about $36,000, but they've been in their home for 25 years or more, and the value of their home at the time of their application is under $250,000, they're fully exempt from paying the county portion of the tax bill and the city portion of the tax bill if the city has adopted it. Those are just a few examples. There are a lot of exemptions, so please go on our website at bcpa.net, click on exemptions, and if there's something you're not getting, you can contact me by September 18th of 2024, and we'll make sure they're reflected in your 2024 tax bill. I hope that helps.
Oh, yeah, that's perfect.
Oh, thank you.
So on the one exemption, there's 31 cities in Broward County,
Yes.
right? How many have adopted it?
It's a great question. So there are 31 cities in the county, and I believe probably about 20 have adopted the long-term senior exemption, which I'm very happy about.
Yeah.
And I really hope the other 11 adopt it as well. I really try to convince them of this, and let me tell you why. If when you talk to one of your local elected officials, if you live in a city where they haven't adopted it, ask them to adopt it, because anytime anybody has an exemption, anytime you adopt an exemption, it's definitely going to mean less money that city has to operate with. But when it comes to the long-term senior exemption, so few seniors qualify. There's not a whole lot, because you have to be in your home for 25 years or more. And so as a result of that, the loss of revenue to the city that you live in is minimal. It is nominal. They don't even see it. But to that senior who's struggling to make ends meet, it means a lot, and that helps them a whole lot. So my goal is, I'm hoping the other 11 cities follow the other cities that have adopted it, because it is just the right thing to do.
All right, yeah, I hope so too. So long-term senior exemption,
Yes.
That's what we're looking for. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. Okay, this is the question that everybody has, no matter what age. How are properties valued? And once you go into that explanation, I do have another question on that for some
It's a fantastic question. I appreciate that. So properties are valued in a few ways. The first thing is there are three approaches to value that we have to take under the law. And it depends on what type of property it is for the approach that we're going to use. Residential property is very, very easily. So basically, there are two ways we'll value it. The first way is if it's a property that's existing property, basically one that hasn't changed hands. So you own that property. The way we determine your value is we look at January 1st of the year. That's the date under the law that we have to use to determine your value. And then we look at all the comparable sales from the year before that were similar to yours, hopefully in your neighborhood. We'll adjust those properties for size and location to determine a market value for your property. If it's not residential property, but it's commercial property, let's say it's a mall or it's a mom and pop store that you own, something of that nature, the way that we would value that property is we would look at comparable sales, the same as before, but we would also look and see what the income that property produces. You look at the net operating income, you look at the vacancy rates, you're able to figure out exactly what the value is based on that income. And then there are properties in Broward County that are so unique that there are no comparable sales that can help us, that we can utilize. You can use the income approach. We use what's called the cost approach. We determine what it costs to basically build the property from the ground up to determine a value. And if it's property that changes hands, though, let's say it's a property you buy. If it was what a willing buyer would pay a willing seller, basically it's an arm's length transaction. The next year when we value your property, we're probably going to use your sale price. That's the way we determine the value of property for the market value. But here's what I tell everybody. Right about June of next year, go on our website and look at what we have, the value of your property that we thought it was worth on January 1st. What you can do, if you think that we've made a mistake, or you have information that we don't have that can help us bring down that value, all you have to do is just call me or email me by September 18th, and we can work on it, and we can hopefully bring down the value of your property so it would bring down your taxes. Let me give you a good example. A few months ago, I was sitting in my office and I received a phone call from a resident. And the resident basically said, Marty, I understand how you valued my property. You looked at how it looked like on January 1st, and you looked at all these comparable sales to determine a value. But my property is different. It had a lot of water damage and it's dilapidated. And I go, well, show me the information you have. And they provided us their insurance information. They let us do a site visit. They sent us pictures. And based on the information that they gave us, we were significantly able to reduce the value they pay taxes on. And I think they're saving about $4,000 in their taxes this year. So definitely go on our website at bcpa.net right about June. See what we have as your value. And if you have any concerns, call me, email me. Let's go through it together because we really only want to make sure you pay on your fair share of value.
And the deadline is in September to get it all done, right? Like
it
you
is.
Have to, is that to file the dispute of the value, or is that
for both?
Okay.
So it used to be that people had March was the deadline for anybody to file for a homestead exemption or any other exemption based on if you were on your property on January 1st. But the legislature gave all property appraisers the opportunity, if we wanted, to move that deadline for good cause till September 18th. Some property appraisers require you to actually show good cause. We were told by the state we don't have to do that, so I just basically moved it. So September 18th is really our deadline that anybody that wants us to work on the value of their property or apply any exemption that they're entitled to, you have till September 18th. That is the deadline to call me, to email me, to come to our office, or let us come to you so we can make sure you get every exemption you're entitled to and that you only pay on your fair share of value.
All right, so let's talk about valuations on Airbnbs, short-term rentals, VRBOs, because technically they've become a business, right? Yes. Instead of inside of a residential area. So now are they taxed as a business or are they taxed as still a residence?
Great question. So when it comes to Airbnbs, which are, let's say, single-family homes or even condos, if they're allowed to have those in their condo community, they're still going to be valued based on if they're residential. But here's the thing. If generally, you have homesteaded properties and you have non-homesteaded properties. There are a lot of properties in Broward County, whether people's second homes or if they have another primary residence, because you can't have more than one homestead per family unit, where those properties are still valued based on residential properties, but they pay taxes on the market value. They don't get the benefit of any of the Saver Homes cap or any exemptions. So if somebody's participating in Airbnb and we find, for example, that they are renting their property for 30 days per year for 2 consecutive years, or they're renting it for more than 6 months a year, or we believe their intent is to relinquish their homestead there, basically they moved elsewhere, then they're going to lose the homestead exemption and they're also going to lose all that value they don't pay taxes on. So what will happen is if somebody participates in Airbnb, most likely the value that they're taxed on is going to get reset to market value. They'll lose all that Save Our Homes value and their taxes are going to go likely way up. So I always tell everybody, if you want to participate, whether it's Airbnb or any type of short-term rental, give us a call first. Let us know about it, and we'll just let you know what will happen to your property taxes if you lose your homestead exemption, so you can really just make sure that it's something that will financially work for you to participate in that. I hope that helps.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah, I was curious about that because
Great
I'm like,
question.
well, if it becomes a business, would it be taxed like a business or would it be taxed as a residence? Yeah.
It's That's a fantastic question. It comes up all the time. Under the law, we have to. You have to value properties based on similar properties. And even though an Airbnb is now participating as a business, there's a few things. One, the information that the private companies have is proprietary, and we can't get our hands on that income. So it would be very hard for us to value it for income for those types of properties. So we still have to utilize for those other comparable sales based on what the property's worth.
All right, makes sense. Okay, so
great question.
Yeah, yes. Thank you for answering that. Okay, so you have the craziest resume.
Thank you. I appreciate
You have done
that.
so much for the state of Florida, public service. So I mean, just like a long line. It's too long. Like you should be 105.
Thank you so much. I think you feel so good.
But I do think that background led you to be the perfect person to deal with the crisis that we're dealing with right now in South Florida for title theft.
Oh, I appreciate that.
And I know that's your passion project.
It is.
And so I want you to explain to people, homeowners, what it is, explain how they can protect themselves, of course, and then I have a couple of other questions that maybe we can talk about. And I know you have some real life examples. I've heard you speak on them before. So
Thank you.
So title theft is a big thing, but I think you're the perfect person to have the success and really make change the way that you've made it.
I really appreciate that. Oh, that means so much to me. Thank you. Well, first I have to tell you, I just want to thank you and everybody, because the people of Broward County have given me the opportunity to serve in a lot of capacities, and I feel just very blessed about it. I was able to serve in the Florida House of Representatives, on the county commission. I got to be the county's mayor, and now I get to be property appraiser. And I can tell you, out of all the elected jobs I've ever had, this is one I love the most by far, because you get to interact with everybody in the county. You get to help people. And let me just explain that. When I served in the legislature, it was awesome, and you got to debate education and healthcare and try to do really good things for the state of Florida. But sometimes you felt so far away from the people, you didn't always get to meet the people you were helping. When I served on the county commission or as Broward County's mayor, you got to make the port better and the airport better and try to make Broward County really strong economically statewide, but you were still very far away from the people. You didn't always get to meet the people you knew were being helped, and that you were helping. Property appraiser is the greatest job alive, because all day, every day you're doing constituent services. It's the type of job that when you go home, you put your head in your pillow, you feel like you did something good that day. So thank you so much for allowing me to do it. And one thing in our office that I take very, very seriously is trying to help protect the public. And unfortunately, South Florida is the title fraud capital of the world. It's the capital of the world because you have criminals, and that's what they are. What they do is they walk into the recording division of every single county, every single day in the state of Florida. They file fake deeds on people's properties, and they take those deeds and they extort people for money, or they mortgage, rent, or sell the property. They do it all the time. And the reason it's so easy for them is the recording division for every county has a ministerial duty. They have to accept whatever documents filed with them. And so you have these criminals, they walk in, they file a fake deed, and they do something nefarious with it. So the first thing we wanted to do was give the people of Broward County the opportunity to fight the fraud before the fraud occurs. And so about 2 years ago, we came up with a great program called Owner Alert. It's really a notification program to let you know if anybody has filed any document changing title on your property, whether legitimate or not. And it's very easy to sign up. If you go to our website at bcpa.net, you click on Owner Alert, you type in your name, your parcel ID number, which you usually grab from our website, and you type in your email address. And if we have your email address on file, you're automatically verified. If we don't, you have to upload your Florida driver's license or Florida ID. If you don't have that, you have to upload a utility bill or something proving ownership. And then if any document, legitimate or not, is filed changing ownership on your property, you'll be notified instantaneously by email, so you can make sure you can stop the fraud before somebody can steal your home, cloud your title, and cost you a lot of money in attorney's fees to try to fix it. We've had about 220,000, actually 230,000 Broward County property owners sign up for an email alert. We've also had about 100,000 sign up for a text message alert, which we have that as well. And there are people in Broward County that don't have access to email, or they don't want a text message. They can actually get a hard copy in the mail. And when we set this program up a couple years ago, I started getting phone calls from residents. And those residents would say, Marty, I just got an alert from your office that somebody changed the title on my property, but I didn't do it. And then I got more and more and more, and I realized how big of a deal it was. So I came up with an idea. I wanted to work with law enforcement, build criminal cases, and put the people in jail who are doing this. So I called the Department of Revenue, which oversees all the property appraisers of the state of Florida. And I basically said to them, hey, Department of Revenue, this is what I want to do. Would you approve it? And they said, and I gave them a little bit of heartburn, because they go, Marty, you're not law enforcement. You determine the value of properties, you give exemptions, but we understand this is a big deal for South Florida, so we'll make you the guinea pig for the rest of the state. Then we'll approve it. And I go, great. I then went to the county commission, which funds my budget. And I said, county commission, the Department of Revenue approved a new program in my office. I'm going to call our Crimes Against Property team. Would you all fund it? And they said, absolutely. I then went to see my friend Sheriff Tony, who's the sheriff of Broward County, who's doing a great job. And I go, Sheriff Tony, I go, I'm not law enforcement. I don't have subpoena power or arrest powers, but can we work together to build criminal cases and hopefully hold the people accountable stealing other people's properties? And he looked at me and he goes, Marty, not only will we enter into an interlocal agreement to work together, but I'm going to assign 2 sheriff's detectives to work for you to be housed within your office so you can actually do the job of law enforcement. I then went to see Harold Pryor, who's also a great friend. He's our state attorney, the person responsible for prosecuting people. And I go, Harold, the sheriff and I, we're working together. We're going to build these criminal cases. If we bring them to you, would you prosecute the people that are doing this? And he goes, absolutely, Marty. We're going to enter into an agreement to work together, and I'm going to assign an assistant state attorney to work with your office to prosecute the people that you bring to us. And that's how our Crimes Against Property team was formed 1 year ago. Right now, it consists of our director, who was second in command of the sheriff's office at one time. We also have 4 employees who are former law enforcement, currently non-sworn. We have 2 sheriff's detectives, a Fort Lauderdale detective, and a Town and Navy Reserve detective, and support staff. And over the past year, we've been very successful. We've arrested about 30 people so far. We have a number of convictions. We have dozens of open warrants. We've been able to stop the fraudulent sale of millions of dollars worth of property, and we've been able to work with the court system to get property that's been stolen back to the victims in a much more expeditious and cost-efficient manner. So I'm very, very proud of this team. And if you like, I can give a few examples, but I get very passionate about this.
Before you give the examples,
Yes.
so that never happens. Historically, that does not happen. You do not have one governmental organization working within another so that they can, I shouldn't say never, because never is an absolute, but that was very hard to accomplish normally. And I think that's what's made the difference.
Thank you.
And that's why you've had such a success. But I do think your resume, your personality, your drive, like really led you, all your connections helped you get to that point where you could make that happen and really have results. Because normally it would be an individual trying to solve the problem on their own, trying to hire attorneys or figure out how to solve the problem on their own. How do they get access from Broward County? How do they get access to whoever the criminals were? Like you're really facilitating the whole thing instead of the homeowner feeling helpless. Like, I can't believe what happened to me, especially when they're like, you're going to tell the story of, 95 or whatever. And what are they supposed to do? And the house has basically been stolen from them just because of paperwork.
Absolutely. And I appreciate so much you saying that. This really is a collegial effort amongst a number of different government bodies. And if the sheriff, for example, who's a great friend, wasn't on board, or the state attorney or the county commission didn't want to fund it, if any of those groups didn't want to work with us, I couldn't do it. And I'm just so grateful and so thankful that there's so much support from the county commission, the sheriff, who, like I said, has been just fantastic, the state attorney. And honestly, I'm very proud of it because it really shows when government bodies work together, you can do a lot of good for a lot of people. And so I'm very, very proud of that. And there are a few examples that I'd like to talk about am I allowed to, is it okay if
Please,
I talk?
tell them.
A few examples that I'd like to talk about that really put in perspective how terrible this crime is, and how smart the people are that do this. And the one thing that everybody should really just take note of is there's one common denominator amongst the people that do this, is they are the smartest people. They're the type of people that if they did something legitimate, they'd be so successful.
Can we just call them slick?
Oh,
I don't like calling them smart.
Oh, you're right. They are the slickest people. You are 100%. Actually, I'm going to use that from now on. They are the slickest people. They are the type of people, if they did something good, they would be so successful. Instead, they make their money by trying to defraud the public, especially our most vulnerable populations. And here's a few examples just to show you how slick they are. The first involved a married couple. It was 2 wives. One of the wives worked for one of our hospital districts. The other wife worked in the real estate industry. The wife that worked in the hospital district would find out what people would pass on. She would then take their confidential information, including their social security numbers, and give it to her wife in the real estate industry, who would find out they had property in Broward County and heirs here. If they had property and no heirs, they filed fake deeds on the properties, and they would take those deeds and they would extort people for money. They would sell the properties on Zillow. They profited in the amount of millions upon millions of dollars. But something I'm very happy about is they were caught, they were found guilty, and they're both spending their time in different prisons, which I think is a great thing. Another example happened a little after that from a person not from Broward County, and his scheme was also very, very slick and very, very devious at the same time. Here's what he did. He somehow found out that there was a senior that lived in Southwest Ranches that was bedridden and very, very sick. He also found out that that senior had a 5-acre parcel in Southwest Ranches that was free and clear that he's owned for a very, very long time. And so what he did was he made a fake corporation with Tallahassee. He then made the officer and director of the corporation the sick man. He then filed a fake deed saying the corporation owned the property. He then made a fake ID saying he was that man. He then walked into a small business in the city of Sunrise, a mortgage company, and basically said, you know what, I've fallen in some hard times, made some bad financial decisions, but I have this one thing, a 5-acre parcel in Southwest Ranches, free and clear, can I please have a $500,000 mortgage? And the mortgage company said, sure, we'll give it to you. And this is where they really should have realized something fishy was going on. The closing for a 5-acre parcel in Southwest Ranches for $515,000 took place at a Burger King in Hialeah. So they go to the Burger King in Hialeah, and you got the bad guy trying to get the money, you got the mortgage company not doing their due diligence, about to be out a lot of money, and you're the smartest person in the room, the notary. And the notary is looking at this and thinking this is very bizarre. So she asked for the guy's thumbprint. She then sent that to our office. We contacted the Town of Davie Police Department because they police Southwest Ranches, and the U.S. Secret Service because they handle a lot of the identity theft cases in America. And fortunately, the man was arrested. Unfortunately, he was given the full $515,000 mortgage, spent about $80,000. We recovered the rest. Another example happened a little after that, where there were a number of people that were arrested, and more people are going to be arrested in this scheme. And this group of people figured out how to use the court system to steal people's properties. And here's what they would do. They would file what's called quiet title actions in circuit court, basically lawsuits in circuit court, saying this senior or this bank or this person no longer wanted the property. The return of service for the answer would go to the guy's buddy who was in a mobile home in Hillsborough County, and he would say, oh yeah, I represent that senior or that bank or that person. Yeah, they don't want the property anymore. Put in this other guy's name or his company's name. And they stole probably about 20 to 30 properties that we found so far. We tend to find more every single month, and a number of them have been arrested. But I like to talk about this story because it taught me a few things. The first thing it taught me, which we knew, was that the owner of the home's a victim. It also taught me that the community can be a victim as well, because in one of those properties that they stole, they moved a whole bunch of their buddies into that property. And one time, about 3 in the morning, one of the buddies walked out